Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name's Jen. I'm here in Central Florida and today is your lucky day. It's my first time harvesting the crop kohlrabi. If you have an interest in growing this crop, I want to highly encourage you to grow it and watch this video where I'll teach you how to start the seeds, how to grow it, and then how to harvest it. But you don't want to miss the end. That's where we'll talk about how to eat it. Let's get into it. Now let's assume you're like me and you're an amateur backyard gardener just trying to figure out how to grow a variety of crops. Someday you dream of a homestead or you dream of just having a big enough harvest and continuous harvest that you can offset your grocery bill for your family. That's my perspective, and this year I grew kohlrabi strictly because I remember my mom eating it when I was a kid. She would peel it and she would cut it up and eat it with some salt on it, and it was always so crisp and light, and it was just a delicious vegetable, although I meet a lot of people who've never even heard of the crop kohlrabi. So if you're curious about growing kohlrabi in your backyard, I want to encourage you to grow it. It's so easy and it's so fast. It only takes 60 days to harvest and you can start it straight from seed. One of the things I like about fast growing crops is that you have the ability to try multiple times in a growing season. So if you screw up the first time and you figure it out about 2 weeks or a month in, you can plant another one and try again. This was my first year growing kohlrabi and I already identified one thing that I screwed up. It was not getting the optimum variety for my area. Now I will say it worked. This was purple Vienna that I planted and I'm in Central Florida, and the recommended variety from my Ag Extension Office website is white Vienna, Kohlrabi, it's a red variety, or Tarek, which is a green variety. It doesn't mean it won't grow at all, but it just means it's not optimum for your area. So you can stay one step ahead by looking at your county extension office website and checking the varieties and making sure you buy the right seeds. After you get that out of the way, all you got to do is follow the instructions on the back of the seed packet. Kohlrabi is so easy because you can choose to direct sow it in your garden, meaning directly put the seeds in your garden, or you can start seeds in seedling trays. What I've learned to love about seedling trays is that it gives you a little bit more control in the very beginning when you might want a little more control. You can keep a humidity dome over top of those seeds until it germinates, and then once it germinates, you can remove that humidity dome without worrying about like a big raised bed full of soil drying out and not being able to mulch because you're worried about smothering those seedlings. Another thing I don't have to worry about when using seedling trays is birds and bugs walking off with my seedlings. In my opinion, it's best to start it in the seedling tray and then move to the garden after about a month for kohlrabi. The beauty of using seedling trays also lets you keep your garden space going with other crops. So you can have crops growing in overlapping time frames because you've got some going in a seedling tray and some going in a raised bed. Now you will want to be careful about the growing season. Kohlrabi is a cool season crop, so here in Central Florida, that means I'm growing it between October and March. That's another place that I kind of screwed up this time around. Today's April 16th and I'm doing my first harvest. When temperatures are wrong at the very beginning of growing a crop, a lot of times you'll see bolting or you'll just see stunted growth. If the bulb has already formed and the temperatures are getting too hot, like mine are, that tender, crisp vegetable is going to turn fibrous and woody, and it's not even going to taste good. So be careful about your growing season if you want to enjoy your crop. Now that we've talked through the basics of the crop kohlrabi, let's go out to the garden, check out how it's growing, and get ready to harvest. Now that we're in the garden, I can finally show you what kohlrabi looks like. This is a purple Vienna variety, and you can see how the bulb is above ground. That's what I mean about a bulbous stem. All of these leaves, when they're young, they're actually edible, but towards the harvest date, they become a little bit less edible, so I'm probably just gonna cut them off. If you know about a way to prepare a mature kohlrabi leaf instead of wasting it, please let me know in the comments. Otherwise, I'm gonna put it in my compost pile. Now, one thing you've gotta be careful about with kohlrabi is consistent watering. If you're watering very sporadically, this bulb will actually split. Now I have mine set up on an automated drip irrigation system, so I don't have any issues with consistency. Like most vegetables, you're gonna wanna plant it in a full sun spot. And some plants that you might wanna plant nearby are some good companion plants like dill, or onions or shallots or something like that. Right here in this square, I had a lot of dill, but I just posted a video, you might want to check it out, about harvesting dill seeds because this dill went to flower and it was done. So I pulled it out of my garden, but during the growing period, it seemed like it was helping to keep some of the pests away from my kohlrabi. And over here, a little further, a couple squares away in my garden, I have a lot of shallots growing. A lot of things like cabbage worms, they hate things like onions and shallots and those kind of flavors. Now, if you want to bring in some beneficial insects into your garden, don't forget your flowers. I've got some marigolds planted right here. I've also got nasturtium back here. So don't skip out on the flowers. I really didn't encounter any pests this year, so actually that makes kohlrabi something that I want to plant again and again. Some crops that experience a lot of pest pressure are just really difficult for me to want to grow again because I feel like I'm fighting an uphill battle. So let's get into harvesting it. The way that you're going to harvest kohlrabi is by cutting it off right at the root, right where that root meets the soil. Now I figured I would try doing it with my garden shears. These are bare bones garden shears, which I highly recommend. The link's in the description box below. But I'm not sure if they're going to do the job because this is kind of a thick stem. So I also brought my hori knife. Oh, actually, I got it. Now that we've harvested this, I'm gonna quickly cut off the leaves because in my experience, any plant that's like this, bulbous, or a root veggie, they just seem to dry out really quickly if I leave the leaves on it. It's like the leaves are sucking the moisture out of that crop. Now that we've got the kohlrabi out of the garden, let's talk about how to prepare it for eating. The first thing you're gonna do when you try to eat kohlrabi is peel off this really tough outer layer. I've got a knife here. I'm gonna attempt to peel it just to show you how crisp and white that interior is. Pretty easy to peel actually. Look at that. It's almost like an apple texture. Now you can peel it and cut it up and eat it with a little salt on it, just like my mom did. You can finish peeling it, cut it up, roast it, and it would be really good. Another way you could do it is boil it, make something like a mashed potato with it, or one of the most unique ways to use it that I've heard is actually taking a cheese grater and grating this white interior and using it as something that adds a little crunch on your salad. I'm excited to try that one, but for now, I think I'm just gonna bite it and see what it tastes like. It's pretty good. It's actually got a little bit of sweetness, which is nice. If you have a unique way of preparing this crop, let me know how you eat it in the comments below. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.